Welcome to the Sci-Fi Continuum. I'm Stan, your narrator. Make sure you subscribe to our channel for more stories. The Luna Prime orbital city was story, a marvel of human ingenuity, a gleaming metropolis suspended above Earth, teeming with scientists, engineers, and dreamers. Neon lights reflected off towering structures of glass and metal, and shuttles zipped between ports like comets against the backdrop of distant stars. It was beautiful, yes, but it was also overwhelming with its unending bustle, noise, and ceaseless energy. As a scientist and AI developer for Celestra Dynamics, I was part of the machinery that kept Luna Prime advancing toward the stars. My job was far from glamorous, mostly hours upon hours of programming and debugging software designed to enhance the intelligence of the space Hunter Armada, humanity's fleet built for defense. But it was isolating too. Most of my colleagues kept to themselves, and I often found myself buried in data, going home only when my brain demanded sleep. One night, exhausted and staring at the piles of coffee mugs and scattered data chips cluttering my apartment, I realized I needed help, someone to keep things running while I focused on my work. I hesitated, reluctant to let anyone into my personal space, but necessity w out, so I posted an ad on Luna Prime's hiring network. Work housekeeper wanted. Minimal experience required, long hours. Fair pay, discretion necessary. 3 days later, I received a response. The applicant was a blue-skinned alien species known for their curiosity and feral beauty. The message was direct yet polite, the tone suggesting she was different. Her name was Visa, and she was willing to work as my housekeeper with little no of oven customs and even less experience hiring anyone. I decided to take a chance. After all, who better to fill my quiet space than someone who came from a culture so fascinated with humanity? When arrival, I opened the door on the day of her arrival. I was struck by the sight of her, tall, poised, and undeniably alien. Her deep blue skin almost glowed under the soft hallway lights, and her eyes were in intense shimmering gold. She wore a maid uniform, yet it had a strange, almost provocative twist, a blend of classic and futuristic styles that seemed impractical for housekeeping but strangely suited to her. The fitted bodice hugged her form, the sheer sleeves added a touch of mystery, and the short pleated skirt made me question whether her choice of attire was a subtle joke or part of some oven tradition. Hello, Mr. Orson, she greeted, a hint of a smile playing on her bold red lips. Her voice was soft but carried an undertone of strength. Visa, welcome, I replied, unable to hide my surprise. You got here quickly. OA isn't as far as you might think, she replied with a slight smile. Thank you for accepting my application. She glanced around, taking in my cluttered living room, and I saw her mouth twitch as if holding back laughter. Seems I'll have my work cut out for me. There was a warmth in her words, something that made me relax despite my initial discomfort. Maybe it was her curiosity or the way she seemed entirely unbothered by my haphazard living space, but something told me she wouldn't judge me for the mess. Right, well, I mostly need help with keeping things in order, I said, running a hand through my hair. My work takes up a lot of my time, so I've heard, she replied, glancing at the stack of data chip shed by my computer. Her gaze returned to me, her gaze, golden eyes assessing Celestra Dynamics. They're working on AI for the space Hunter Armada. Yes, confidential. Technically, I said, trying to sound official, but the hint of a smirk on her lips suggested she already knew. She nodded as if filing the information away, and then moved to set her bag down, already at ease in her new surroundings. As the days went on, Visa became a regular fixture in my life, her presence warm yet mysterious. She had a way of making me aware of her, catching my gaze at the oddest moments, lingering in my peripheral vision. I found myself watching her, drawn to the elegance of her movements, the quiet intelligence in her expression. There was something undeniably captivating about her, and I soon realized she knew it. Visa had a knack for creating moments that left me flustered and unsure, yet strangely amused. She'd catch me off guard with a well-timed glance, a subtle movement, or a smile that was just a touch too mischievous. I wasn't imagining it. She was making sure I looked. One morning, as I was pouring coffee in the kitchen, she slid onto the counter across from me, crossing her long legs with a casual elegance that made her skirt ride up just enough to reveal her toned blue thighs. She watched me with a small smirk. One eyebrow arched. Nate, she said softly, her voice lilting. I've noticed you peek at me. Sometimes the bluntness of her statement caught me off guard and I nearly spilled my coffee. I don't know what you mean, I stammered, feeling a warmth creep into my cheeks. Oh, you do, she replied, a hint of laughter in her voice. And I don't mind. You know, I think it's nice that you look. She leaned forward slightly, her golden eyes meeting mine, and for a moment I felt my heart skip a beat. We stayed like that, the silence stretching between us, the air thick with unspoken, playful, daring words. She watched me, her expression softening, and I felt an odd connection. Something I couldn't quite explain but didn't want to question. From then on, she made a point of creating situations that invited my attention. She'd adjust her uniform, letting her fingers linger on the hem of her skirt, or she'd lean over to reach something high, her eyes flicking toward me to see if I was watching. She was playful, even bold at times, and I couldn't deny that I enjoyed. There was a curiosity between us, a mutual fascination that grew each day, a silent agreement that neither of us acknowledged directly. One evening, as the neon lights of Luna Prime cast a soft glow through the apartment, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table, my mind foggy from hours of work. Visa approached, carrying a tray with 2 glasses and a bottle of something bright and sparkling. Thought you could use a break, she said, setting the glasses down and pouring a drink. She took a seat on the table directly in front of me, her gaze playful, daring. She leaned back slightly, letting her hand slide along her thigh, gently tugging at the hem of her dress. You know, you don't have to wear that uniform if it's uncomfortable, I murmured, my voice thick with the weight of unspoken thoughts. She laughed softly, a sound like silk brushing over glass. Oh, but I like it, Mr. Orson, she replied, her eyes locking breaking free mine. Besides, it seems you don't mind it either. I felt a tug of tension in my chest, an undeniable pull toward her. Visa, I don't usually. This isn't exactly. She tilted her head, her smile softening. Nate, she interrupted, her voice barely a whisper. Stop thinking so much. She leaned forward, her face inches from mine, her gaze searching, her breath warm against my skin. In that moment, the space between us vanished. She closed the distance, her lips brushing against mine, a tentative kiss that grew more certain as we both surrendered to the moment. She tasted like warmth and mystery, and as I wrapped my arms around her, I felt a rush of desire, a longing that had simmered between us finally breaking free. That night we made love under the soft lights of the city, a joining of 2 curious souls, each discovering the other in a way neither of us had expected. There was an openness between us, an honesty that felt raw yet comforting, as though we were peeling back layers to reveal parts of ourselves we'd kept hidden. Over the next few weeks, our connection deepened, Visa, and I fell into a rhythm, our days spent in easy companionship, our nights occasionally dissolving into passionate embraces. She continued to tease me, testing my reactions with sidelong glances, subtle touches, and that now familiar mischievous smile. Each encounter felt like peeling back another layer of a mystery I was only beginning to understand. For all her allure and playfulness, there was a part of her I knew she kept guarded, something about her curiosity that was more than just fascination, a strange presence. One night, long after we had shared an intimate evening and I had gone to bed, a strange presence disturbed the quiet of my apartment. A shadow moved outside the window, creeping with the precision of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. For the apartment's automated security system chimed softly as it was overridden, the hacker too skilled for the standard locks and protocols. The door to the balcony hissed open just enough to let a tall, cloaked figure slip through. The intruder was of a species I didn't recognize, dark blue skin, almost indigo, and a thin, wiry frame. He was dressed in lightweight tactical gear, blending seamlessly with the dim shadows of the room. Moving with practiced silence, he scanned the space with gleaming pupilless eyes, his gaze settling on my workspace, where I'd left the tablet containing schematics for the AI project. He patted toward it, footsteps, soundless fingers reaching out for the device that held my work. But he hadn't counted on Vesa Unbeknownst to him, Voss's senses were sharper than any humans attuned to the slightest shift in energy around her. She had been dozing on the couch in the living room, close enough to keep an eye on things, and the moment the intruder bypassed the security, her eyes snapped open, golden irises dilating as she the situation. Without a sound she rose, her movements cat-like, and in a flash she posed, positioned herself behind the would-be thief, planning on taking the intruder. Something are we? Her voice, low and dangerous, broke the silence like a crack of thunder. The intruder whirled around, startled, but Vesa was already in motion. She struck with a swiftness that belied her graceful form, her lee body a blur as she engaged him in combat. The two exchanged swift blows, the intruder's attempts to fight her off hampered by his surprise. She moved like liquid, evading his attacks and countering with force, pushing him back with a strength he clearly hadn't expected from a mere housekeeper. With a deft twist, Vesa used the fabric of her own apron to trap his arms, tying him up before he could even process what was happening. Her dress was askew, the white netting of her skirt slightly torn, her platinum hair spilling over her shoulders. She looked both fierce and radiant, her golden eyes blazing with triumph as she secured the intruder to the heavy leg of my workbench. Just then I stumbled into the room, awakened by the noise rubbing my eyes. I took in the sight of Vesa, disheveled yet victorious, standing over the restrained intruder. My gaze shifted between her and the stranger, processing what had just happened. Vesa, did you? She looked up at me, her expression softening just slightly. I took care of it, Mr. Orson, she said with a smirk, though her eyes betrayed a hint of relief. Seems your work is of interest to more than just Celestra dynamics. I swallowed, still half in shock. I thank you, Vesa. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here. Good thing I was, she replied, reaching out to touch my hand. Reassuringly, there was a warmth in her gaze, a quiet pride mixed with something deeper. You're safe now. The police. In a daze I contacted the authorities and Celestra Dynamics to report the incident. Within minutes, 2 officers from Luna Prime's security force arrived, accompanied by a representative from my company's security division. They took the intruder into custody, acknowledging the attempted breach with grim professionalism. The lead officer, a grizzled man with a non-nonsense demeanor, turned to Vesa with a nod of respect. Nice work. Not many would have had the skill to take down an Oru spy single-handedly. These guys aren't exactly amateurs. Vesa accepted the compliment with a small, polite smile, though her hand lingered on my shoulder protectively. I watched her, still in awe, marveling at how she'd handled the situation with such calm, such precision. She was more than just a curious housekeeper. There was strength in her, a fierceness I hadn't fully appreciated until now. The security team from Celestra Dynamics also approached, their expressions a mix of gratitude and surprise. One of them, a younger woman in a sleek corporate suit, extended her hand to Vesa. We're very grateful, Miss Vesa. You saved some valuable data tonight, and perhaps a lot more. It's rare to find such dedication in a private employee. Vesa shook her hand, her expression unreadable but polite. I was simply doing my job. As they wrapped up the formalities, the officers escorted the intruder out of the apartment, and Cestra's representatives assured me that they would enhance my security systems immediately. When the door finally closed and we were alone once more, a heavy silence settled between us. I turned to her, words failing me for a moment. Vesa, I had no idea you could. I mean, thank you, really. I don't think I can ever repay you for what you did tonight. She tilted her head, a soft smile playing on her lips. You don't owe me anything, Nate. I took this job because I wanted to be close to someone like you. I wasn't expecting, well, any of this. She glanced around almost as if embarrassed, and then met my gaze with a look that made my heart race. Vesa, I murmured, stepping closer, reaching out to tuck a stray lock of her platinum hair behind her ear. Her cheeks darkened to a faint shade of indigo, and I could feel the warmth of her skin beneath my fingertips. Without another word, I leaned in, capturing her lips in a kiss that was filled with gratitude, affection, and something deeper that had been building between us all along. She responded eagerly, her hands slipping around my waist, pulling me close as we gave into the pole that had been simmering between for Weeks the world outside disappeared as we melted into each other, our breaths mingling, our bodies intertwining in the warm glow of the city lights filtering. Through the window there was an urgency to our movements, a shared need to bridge the distance between us, and for a time nothing else mattered but the feel of her skin against mine, the warmth of her embrace, and the quiet reassurance that we were finally exactly where we belonged. When morning arrived, casting a gentle light across the room, I awoke to find her nestled beside me, her breathing soft and steady. I watched her for a moment, the events of the previous night replaying in my mind with a sense of disbelief and awe, as if sensing my gaze. She stirred, her golden eyes fluttering open, a sleepy smile curving her lips. "Good morning, Mr. Orson," she murmured, teasingly formal even now. "Good morning, Miss Veza," I replied, matching her tone. I couldn't help but grin, feeling lighter than I had in months, perhaps years. There was a strange sense of rightness, of completeness, as though I had found something I hadn't known I was missing. We shared a quiet breakfast together, savoring the new normal that had settled over us. Life would go on as it always had, filled with work and routine, but now there was something more, a bond that connected us, a shared understanding that transcended words. Visa had come into my life unexpectedly, and in doing so had turned my world upside down in the best possible way. As I left for work that morning, I glanced back at her, standing by the window with a serene expression on her face, watching the city below. She gave me a small wave, and I felt my heart lift, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. And as I made my way through the bustling corridors of Luna Prime, I couldn't help but smile, thinking of the blue-skinned maid who had turned my life into an adventure I'd never expected, and one I wouldn't trade for anything in the universe.